Welcome back. This outcome is all about the practical side of research, the techniques you actually use to gather evidence, how to judge whether a method is any good, and how to defend the choices you make for your own subject. Let's be clear about what this outcome wants from you. Research techniques are simply the practical tools you use to gather evidence, and you're expected to know the main ones and when each is appropriate. Beyond that, you'll judge how trustworthy each method is and weigh up its strengths and weaknesses for your own field. All of this feeds directly into the essays and projects you'll write later on. Most research methods fall into two broad families. Qualitative methods gather words, meanings, and rich description. They're after the why and the how of something. Quantitative methods gather numbers you can count and measure, answering how many, how much, and how often. And plenty of the strongest studies don't pick a side at all. They blend both in a mixed approach. Let's look at the qualitative toolkit. Interviews use open questions to explore one person's views in depth, while focus groups run a guided discussion to draw out where people agree and differ. Participant observation has the researcher watching and often joining. A real setting and content analysis studies texts, images, or media for recurring themes. What ties them together is that the output is rich description, not tables of figures. So, when do qualitative methods really shine? They're ideal for exploring feelings, motives, and lived experience in depth, and for getting to grips with a new topic where little is yet known. They can explain the meaning sitting behind a surprising number, capture the kind of detail a fixed questionnaire would sail straight past, and give a voice to small or hard-to-reach groups. Now, the quantitative toolkit. Sampling means choosing a smaller group to stand in for a larger population. Surveys and questionnaires put fixed questions to a lot of people, while polls are quick counts of opinion, often just a single question. Statistical analysis then uses maths to tease out patterns and averages. The output here is numerical data you can chart and compare. A few key terms to lock in. Qualitative data is non-numerical evidence, words, images, descriptions, whereas quantitative data is numerical, things you can count or measure. Your sample is the smaller group selected to represent a whole population, and the population is every person or item the research is really about. And content analysis, remember, is systematically examining texts or media for themes. Seeing them side by side sharpens the difference. Qualitative work deals in words and meaning, studies small numbers deeply, uses flexible, open questions, and is great for why and how, though it's harder to generalize widely. Quantitative work deals in numbers and counts, studies large numbers broadly, uses fixed closed questions, and answers how many and how much, but it's less rich in personal detail. Different tools for different jobs. Let's work one through. Suppose you want to know why students at your college skip breakfast. The key word is why, so meaning matters here. A survey would only count how many skip it, not the reasons behind it. Interviews or a focus group would let students actually explain themselves. You could even run a short survey first to find out who skips breakfast, then interview a sample of them in depth. So the answer is a qualitative approach, perhaps with a small survey up front to choose who to talk to. Quick check before we push on. Can you name two qualitative and two quantitative methods? Which family answers how many best and why? And can you think of one topic where you genuinely want to combine both? Have a go before the next section. Choosing a method is only half the job. You also have to check it's a good one. 3 ideas help you judge the quality of evidence. Reliability asks whether you'd get the same result if you ran it again. Objectivity asks whether bias has been kept out of the findings. And validity asks whether the method actually measures what it claims to. We'll take each in turn. Reliability is all about consistency. Would the method give similar results each time it's run? Picture a kitchen scale that reads 500 grams every single time for the same bag of flour. That's reliable. In research, clear, identical questions help a survey stay reliable, whereas vague or leading questions make the results wobble and shift from one person to the next. Objectivity means keeping the researcher's personal bias out of the way. Your findings should reflect the evidence, not your hopes for how things turn out. Leading questions and cherry-picking the quotes you like both chip away at objectivity, while standard procedures and clear rules for coding your data help protect it. And honestly, the first safeguard is just being aware of your own views in the first place. Validity is about accuracy. Does your measure actually capture what you claim it does? Counting how often students visit the library doesn't tell you how much they've learned. A valid test of fitness measures fitness, not simply someone's height. And here's the subtle part. A result can be perfectly reliable and still not be valid. So you have to match your measure carefully to your real question. Let's gather those terms together. Reliability is consistency, similar results when you repeat the method. Objectivity is keeping personal bias out so the evidence can speak for itself. Validity is accuracy, measuring what you claim to measure. Bias is a systematic slant that pushes results one way, and repeatability is simply being able to run the study again and get the same outcome. It's worth stressing that reliable and valid are not the same thing. Something reliable gives the same result every time, consistent and repeatable, but a scale that always reads 2 kilos heavy is still consistently wrong. Something valid gives the correct result, measuring the real thing, like a scale that shows your true weight. Reliability asks, is it stable? Validity asks, is it accurate? You want both. Let's spot a problem. A survey asks, do you agree our brilliant new library is a success? That word brilliant is doing something sneaky. It's nudging people towards agreeing. That lowers objectivity by planting a positive slant. And it dents validity too, because now you're measuring politeness rather than genuine opinion. The fix is to reword it neutrally. How would you rate the new library? With a balanced scale from very poor to very good. Neutral wording restores objectivity and captures what people really think. Both families can show quality, just in different ways. Quantitative work demonstrates reliability through repeatable, standard questions, and objectivity through fixed scales and clear counting. Qualitative work builds reliability with careful, well-recorded procedures and defends objectivity by quoting participants directly and being upfront about the researcher's role. Whichever you use, you must show your measure genuinely fits the question. That's validity, and it applies to both. Pause and test yourself. Can you explain the difference between reliability and validity in a single sentence? Can you give an example of a result that's reliable but not valid? And can you name one way to protect objectivity in a survey? These are worth getting solid. Now to weighing up methods for your own subject. No method is simply best in the abstract. It always depends on the question. Merits here means judging strengths and weaknesses in context. Science and engineering often prize measurable, repeatable numbers, and quantitative data is what supports testing. comparison, and prediction. But qualitative data still earns its place by adding the human why behind those figures. Let's set out those merits plainly for a scientific or engineering context. Quantitative methods give precise, measurable results that are repeatable, testable, and easy to chart and compare, though they offer little human insight and can miss unexpected issues. Qualitative methods explain why a design fails or works, capture user experience and safety concerns, and stay flexible when a problem is brand new. But they're harder to generalize and more open to bias. Each covers the other's blind spot. So, how do you decide in practice? Always start from your research question, not your favorite method, and match the method to the kind of answer you actually need. Weigh up the practical realities too: your time, your access to participants, and your own skills. In engineering, hard data from a test rig might well outweigh opinions. In a user study, interviews could reveal exactly what the numbers are hiding. Let's build a Harvard reference for a method book, step by step. Start with the author's surname and initial, Denscombe, M. Add the year in brackets, 2017. Then the title in italics, The Good Research Guide, followed by the edition, 6th edition. Finish with the place and publisher, London, Open University Press. Put it all together and you get a clean, correctly ordered Harvard reference. A quick note on using AI responsibly, since it applies here just as much. These tools can help you brainstorm, summarize, or check your grammar, and it's fine to use them to explain a concept or plan your reading. What crosses the line is submitting AI text as your own work. Remember that AI can invent fake sources, so verify every reference yourself. Always follow your college's rules, and declare and reference any tool you genuinely relied on. Here's how to declare it honestly. Say you used a chatbot to help plan your research. State clearly in your work what you used it for, and never pass off its wording as your own analysis. Give the tool, its version, and the date you accessed it, following the Harvard format your college accepts, and keep your prompt so you can show your own contribution. A finished reference might read, OpenAI, 2026, ChatGPT, GPT-4, a large language model, available at the ChatGPT URL. Access the 4th of August, 2026. Final check for this outcome. Can you give one acceptable and one unacceptable use of AI in your work? Why must you verify any reference an AI tool hands you? And in your own subject, would you lean quantitative or qualitative, and why? Think those through before you finish.